Hey, this is Ryan Ottley.
And this is Robert Kirkman.
And we are the creative force behind Invincible.
And you are listening to the Oblivion Bar Podcast.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar Podcast with your host, Chris Hacker and Aaron Knowles.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Oblivion Bar Podcast. I am Chris Hacker, one of your co-hosts here, and joining me this week is my BFF, Aaron Knowles.
Brains. No, do they? I don't know. The Walking Dead, do they ever say anything?
They don't say things. At least I don't think they do. I don't know. Everybody, this week on the show, we are talking to, casually, two legends in the comic book world.
Casually.
NBD, Aaron. It's not a big deal. We're really cool about it, too. We don't even make a big deal about it.
I don't even know any good acronyms.
NBD is the only one you know? What about LOL?
Yeah. LOL, LMFAO.
BRB? TGIF?
P and the V. Does that count?
I think that's it.
Okay.
I think you found it. That's the one. This week, everybody, Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. Now, let's just talk about these two gentlemen really quickly. Really, there's no introduction needed, but I think it's important to realize that these two gentlemen, they have done something incredible with the Invincible universe. And we talk about in this conversation with both Robert and Ryan that when The Walking Dead first started to take off, I thought to myself, this is like an incredible moment in comic book history, because the success of The Walking Dead was everywhere. I mean, people that had never picked up a comic in their life were glued to their television every Sunday night on AMC to tune in for the next episode of The Walking Dead. It was like, I think maybe between The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones as like the last water cooler TV shows ever, right? Where you had to watch that episode because the next day everybody was going to be talking about it at work or at school or what have you. So when I say that Invincible in 2025 has, if not surpassed The Walking Dead, but is on the same level as Walking Dead in terms of popularity, that is a huge feat. And that is all thanks to, again, Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley.
Yeah, I'm just looking out. When did Invincible actually came out the same time that The Walking Dead did, comic wise?
Yeah, they were running, relatively congruent with each other. I want to say The Walking Dead is slightly older, but yeah, they're basically the same, around the same time frame.
I find that really interesting.
How in the world do you come up with both The Walking Dead and Invincible at the same time?
Now, again, my mind is blown right now.
Here's the thing I really respect about Robert Kirkman is that both of these things, both Invincible and Walking Dead, are these total isolated moments in comic book history that just fucking worked.
Mm-hmm.
The Walking Dead, it's famously said that Robert Kirkman pitched The Walking Dead as this alien story. By issue 6, I want to say, he was going to reveal that this universe that The Walking Dead was in, this virus that was brought to Earth and made zombies was from aliens. And Kirkman, we don't get into it in this conversation, but he has always said that that was always a fib. He was never going to bring aliens. It was just the fact that at this time in history in 2003, the zombie genre was waning, the popularity of it. You had Resident Evil, and a lot of the Night of the Living Dead was big in the 70s and 80s. And that whole zombie trope was just sort of not a very popular product at the time. But Kirkman was obviously very, very influenced by this. He said often that Night of the Living Dead and Resident Evil were big influences for this story, but he always wanted to tell a story. And then again, Invincible, another classic example of the coming of age superhero story that at that time, around 2003, if you think about what Marvel and DC were doing at the time, Marvel had their Marvel Knights books. Kirkman plays in that universe a little bit with Marvel Zombies and such. It was all dark and gritty and rated M for mature type of comics. And of course, that's what Invincible kind of is. It is very mature and bloody and, over the top in certain instances. But at its heart, I feel it's very much like a coming of age, learning who you are going to become, not who you were supposed to be type of story.
Yeah. Nature versus nurture, leaning on your morals and not giving in to whatever influences that don't align with your own. And I think I find it so interesting that the Walking Dead became such a massive hit at the same time. And like, well, I mean, obviously it took like 7 years because it took 7 years for The Walking Dead, the television show, to come out, but it was probably developed for a while. But like really 2007, 2008 really is when like a lot of zombie movies and a lot of like vampire, a lot of horror like stuff based on that was like really coming out. So I mean, really, I mean, it's hard to say that like the show or the comic itself defined zombies, or at least anything in.
The Walking Dead comic was wildly popular.
It was,
but like the most popular comic in the world's not really doing much in terms of influence.
Exactly.
Right?
So, but then you got to see, like in 2010 when the show came out, obviously it was insanely influential. I mean, it's already spawned multiple spinoffs already, still going to this day, and it's almost 15 years later. So, I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's insanely popular. But we only got about 35 minutes to chat with Robert and Ryan, and it was a fun conversation. Definitely wish we could have gotten them for a little bit longer, like we normally do with a lot of our guests. But I think overall, it was just a great conversation, getting to peek behind the curtain into, Battle Beast, which is part of the, the Invincible universe. And honestly, one of my favorite characters in that entire like sandbox.
Yeah. I mean, I think people have been clamoring for not only more Invincible comic book material, but specifically Thok and his story throughout Invincible.
Something
Battle
fresh.
Beast. Well, yeah, I mean, and like no one does this universe quite like Robert and Ryan. Obviously, it's their universe. I mean, Cory Walker, no disrespect to Cory Walker, who did the first, I want to say 12 issues of Invincible. Invincible is its best when it's Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. The book takes a definite hike in quality and energy and all the things that you want once Ryan Ottley gets on the book. So, it's no secret that like the majority of the best parts of the Invincible universe come from Ryan Ottley and his artwork.
We say it you say it during the interview. We discuss it with both of them that once Ryan Ottley came on board, some of the most defining moments in the entire series are really fleshed out. And I don't think that any other team combination could have done it.
And it's great to see them back together. Right?
Exactly. I think this whole story with Battle Beast, Thok, and a little bit of his origin, a little bit of his understanding, a little bit of the depth into who his character is what a lot of fans, myself included, have been like hoping would be done for a very long time.
And what's interesting about this interview, everybody, before we get into it, I know we're doing a lot of prefacing before this conversation with two legends. I know you're like, Aaron, Chris, shut the hell up. I want to hear Kirkman and Ottley. And I get it. But like what Aaron and I think we put on a nice clean show here, everybody. We got a nice back and forth. We ebbs and flows, all the superlatives, things like that. But like 30 minutes is a good amount of time to get with Kirkman and Ottley. But like we had questions we wanted to ask them. And I think where Aaron and I do a lot of our best work is when we have a little bit of freedom to sort of go off on a trail, do a side quest, as we like to say here, a segue into something. Like when we can joke around and sort of be a couple of dipshits, like that's when we're our best. But like there's just like no time for that in this conversation. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to hear it pretty clearly that like we want to get all the questions out to these two people. So like, as you're listening to this, just know that like we tried to make the most of it, and we might have gotten in our heads a tiny bit when it came to the structure of the conversation here with Robert and Ryan.
Well, I'm not going to put it down. I'm going to say this is a great conversation.
No, it is.
We had a great time with them, and I
think they had a good time.
I guarantee they had a great time. We've already gotten word back that they had a great time. And when we get good feedback, it means the world to us. And they're always welcome back on the show, even though we'll see Ryan Ottley in a couple weeks or in a couple days. Like we see him all the time.
Yeah, we hang out every other week.
Yeah. But no, like again, they were awesome to come onto the show, and it was a great discussion, and we hope you guys really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. We're going to get into that conversation with Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley here. And again, as we said, Battle Beast #1, the official spinoff of the Invincible universe, starring everyone's favorite white, super aggressive, kind of horny sometimes, tiger there in the Invincible universe. That first issue comes out on May 14th. So the Wednesday that you're listening to this conversation, this comes out on the 12th, you will be able to go to your local comic book shop and pick up that first issue on the 14th, that Wednesday. So Aaron, before we get in that conversation, will you please let the listeners know, because I hope we bring in a lot of new listeners. People see Kirkman and Ottley, like, hey, let me listen to these two idiots for, 11 minutes, and then eventually I'll hear Robert Kirkman's voice. Tell them how they can support the Oblivion Bar podcast.
They probably already just fast forwarded through all this, but thanks for being here if you've listened for 11 minutes and 30 seconds so far. But if you want to support the Oblivion Bar podcast, consider checking out our Patreon. For your support over there, you gain access to special bonus episodes each week called The Grid, which is basically the Oblivion Bar pod, unformatted, unfiltered. It is our place to just play around, as it's called, The Grid from, the Tron series. It's just our own creation, our own sandbox. You also get a behind the scenes look at how we prepare each episode with episode transcripts, Patreon polls, giveaways, prizes, just all types of stuff. And you can get all that over on patreon.com/Oblivion Bar Pod. You can even try it out with a 7-day free trial. Again, that link is in the show notes, but just one more time, patreon.com/Oblivion Bar Pod.
That's right. Go check it out in the show notes. All right, we're going to do a couple quick ads, and then we'll get in this conversation with Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley.
This episode is brought to you by Oni Press. If you're craving for comics that defy the ordinary and a publisher that not only allows, but encourages its creators to tell their story the way they want to, look no further than Oni Press, the loudest thing in color since 1997.
For those who like their comics with a little supernatural twist, Plague House from good friend of the show, Michael W. Conrad, and undiscovered genius in 2024 Ringo Award-winning artist Dave Chisholm is an excellent choice. The first issue was excellent, and that second issue comes out on May 7th. Aaron, did I mention that Dave Chisholm is a genius?
You did, and it was excellent. And we already know how you loved Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but be on the lookout for the first issue of Dark Regards from multi-hyphenated writer, comedian, actor, musician Dave Hill and breakout artist Artyom Topolin. This first issue tells the tale of how one stand-up comedian forged a secret identity as America's first true black metal icon and accidentally started an international incident that almost wiped Gary, Indiana off the map. As somebody who's been to Gary, not all of that quote-unquote incident sounds horrible. Dark Regards #1 hits shelves on May 14th.
Whether you're into historical fiction about the escape from Alcatraz, or into futuristic billionaire murdering power fantasies, or just say you really love Rick and Morty and Adventure Time, Oni Press has something for you. Discover more over at onipress.com or visit your local comic book shop today.
And now, this week's special guest.
Joining us today are the creative team of Invincible Universe Battle Beast. One is the Eisner Award-winning writer and co-creator of a small indie titles you've probably never heard of, like The Walking Dead, Firepower, Outcast, Oblivion Song, Void Rivals, and of course, Invincible. The other is the co-creator for the majority of the Invincible universe and the primary artist for the series, penciling 127 of the 144-issue run. You may also know him from his recent stint over at Marvel Comics with both The Amazing Spider-Man and The Hulk. It is our pleasure to welcome both Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley onto the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
Woo! Thank you, fellas.
So great to see you both here. Wow, this is an incredible moment here in the pantheons of Oblivion Bar history. Yeah, so great. We were talking a little bit before the conversation. Robert, this is our first time meeting. Thank you so much for being here. Ryan, you're an old friend. I'll see you. I see you like every other week. So, good to see you, I guess.
It's great to see me. Admit it. Come on, Chris.
It is. I'm totally joking there. And I think
I'm always happy to see you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Like
I know you are, Aaron. I know. You're always a smiley face at these conventions. Good to see you again.
I think it's important to just sort of kick this whole thing off. Let's just talk about Battle Beast. I think it's probably the best thing, the best way to start this conversation. That first issue hits shelves on May 14th. And the story picks up moments after the events of 2004's Invincible 19, where Battle Beast manhandles Mark, Bulletproof, and Black Samson, and then promptly teleports away.
Beat some ass and run.
Yep. And now there's a quote from the Skybound press release that I want us to sort of explore here. No longer a mindless avatar of death, Thok begins to awaken from a haze of his bloodlust. So, Robert, with all the continued success of the comic series and now the mega success of the animated series over on Prime, what was it specifically about Battle Beast that made you guys feel like this is the right time for you guys to reunite, you and Ryan, to reunite and tell more stories about him?
I mean, the short, honest answer is Ryan was available. But Battle Beast became one of our favorite characters from Invincible, if not our favorite character from Invincible. I've always wanted to tell more stories with Battle Beast. You can see how he kind of started showing up in the book more and more as the series progressed until he stopped showing up in the book, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it was just something that I thought would be really fun. And when Ryan's dalliance with Marvel finally came to an end, I was trying to find something cool that we could do together, and Battle Beast ended up becoming that thing.
Thank you for rescuing him.
Yeah. Thank you for getting him back over at Skybound. Ryan, how was it for you when you finally got the call and, you guys finally figured out this is the time to get back to the Invincible universe? What were your thoughts there?
I mean, I definitely look at it as a dream project. I mean, Invincible is definitely the thing I'm most proud of in my whole career. Mm-hmm. The biggest project I've done and the biggest project I'll ever do, to be honest. I mean, I don't think I can do that long of a run ever again, but
we'll see.
We'll see. Yes.
Yeah.
He'll convince me somehow. Yeah. But no, it was awesome because, I mean, Marvel was fun, but I did miss working with Robert and being in the Invincible universe where there's pure freedom. So yeah, it was great. It's great.
This is your playground, right? Like this is your guy. You guys have done all the, I mean, Robert, of course, this sort of came from your brain. And then Ryan, I think it's safe to say that the majority of our favorite moments in Invincible history came, directly from your hands. So it's cool to see you guys back together. And I liked that Spider-Man run with you and Nick Spencer. And, your and Donnie's work on the Hulk, and then the one that you eventually finished there at the Hulk was great too. But, maybe I'm selfish here. I'm happy that you guys are both doing Invincible again as well.
Same.
Ryan was somehow able to pull some cool moments out of those lesser writers' works.
Let's go ahead and get.
I'm just kidding. I love Donnie.
This is a good time to bring in Donnie Cates and Nick Spencer into the chat. No, I'm kidding.
I gotta say, same sentiment that you guys have about Battle Beast. He quickly became my favorite character of the entire Invincible series. So I'm glad to hear that he's yours as well. So I'm just super excited to see where you go with him, and potentially other family members that he might have. Mm-hmm. But Ryan, you've been pretty vocal in the past about how Battle Beast is the one character you've always wanted to explore more of, but were hesitant to overuse during the original run of Invincible. At his core, and outside of him having a killer design and just being one of the biggest badasses of the series, is there an element of Battle Beast's character you and Robert really want to explore here?
I think that's more of a Robert question, but I mean, visually, I just want to make him the most badass as I possibly can, make him look, and yeah.
I mean, for me, I think that putting him through his paces and really having this be like an action-oriented series where Ryan can strut his stuff is really important. But I think there's a emotional aspect to the character that we're exploring that's a lot of fun. And I think if you look at who he is in issue 19 and who he is in issue 55 and who he becomes over the run of those issues, there's a big difference there. And I think that exploring what caused that difference and what maybe made him grow into a more well-rounded character is going to be, fun to explore. And so we have this really cool gap in time that we can kind of get into the nooks and crannies of finding as many interesting aspects as possible about the character. And that's something that's really exciting to me. It's telling a story where, we're doing cool action and we're doing great stuff. But when you read this series and then go back and read those old issues of Invincible, you'll have a different understanding of Battle Beast, and those stories will have a different sort of feel to them because of what Ryan and I were able to accomplish with this series.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to hear that as well. I already know that, even because listeners don't know this, but we've already got to read Battle Beast #1. And even just in that one, no spoilers, but there's a significant change even within the first few pages in Battle Beast's character. So I'm excited to see how you guys are going to continue to explore just that mentality change that he has, going forward, because it's already significant just in issue 1.
Yeah, and again, we pick up moments after that issue 19 where we first meet Battle Beast. Aaron and I were talking before the recording, and I love that in the pantheons of Invincible's history, the first words that Battle Beast says is roar. It's roar with 2 exclamation points. Which, he's known for being this sort of like poetic, just like monster, but just the fact that his first words were roar, it just really tickles me. But let's say that, someone has only seen the Invincible series. They haven't read up to, the 144 issues. I have the compendiums right next to me and they're like thick babies. You could beat a burglar with these things and it would probably knock them out.
Kudos to the fans that carry the hardcover omnibuy around, like multiple ones to the conventions to get you guys to sign them. Like, kudos. Those guys are like, they ruck more than some of us, like while we were in the military did. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. We're building muscle mass with this book, We're accomplishing great things.
No, and I think it's safe to say that like nothing is spoiled in what eventually happens to talk, in this first issue of this new series. But Ryan, Robert, whoever wants to sort of take this one, how would you suggest fans approach this new comic series going forward if they haven't read anything past issue 19 of Invincible?
Well, they've probably already seen season 1, 2, and 3, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
And that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we've carefully crafted this series. So if you've read every issue of Invincible and you've watched every episode of the show, this book will make sense. You'll totally dig it. If you've not read any of Invincible and not watched the show at all, but you're like, I don't know, I want to try this stuff. This series will make complete sense. There's nothing dependent of Invincible for you to understand. If you've only watched the show, totally works. Nothing is going to be spoiled. There's not any kind of like callbacks to things that have happened in the series. If you have seen everything, there's going to be Easter eggs. And when certain characters reappear or are introduced, you'll go, oh, I know that character. It's exciting to see them again. But if you are unfamiliar with Invincible, they'll just seem like cool new characters being introduced, and it'll work in that context as well. So yeah, we're going to great lengths to make sure that there isn't any kind of, if you don't know what eventually happens in Invincible 102, this issue of Battle Beast doesn't make sense. Like, we don't want to do anything like that.
Sure.
And we want Battle Beast to feel like its own self-contained story. So you will get a complete experience from reading Battle Beast. It has a beginning, middle, and an end, and will exist as its own piece and is not necessarily dependent on Invincible. So, we're trying to make sure it's a satisfying read for anybody that's coming at it from any angle.
Sure. What I think most listeners already probably know by this point, Robert, is that you used to work at a comic shop. You really value that brick and mortar inclusiveness when it comes to these events. I don't think it even would be a Robert Kirkman release if you didn't have some kind of surprise planned for the launch of a new book. Most fans
it's
will probably
exhausting.
I'll tell you, from the fans' perspective, we really appreciate it. It's nice to know that at least a couple of the creators, Ryan included in this, you guys really go to the extra lengths to make this launch really special. And, I think very specifically of the Die surprise drop, the unannounced last issue of The Walking Dead, even Jetfire showing up again in Void Rivals #1 from a couple years ago with the Energon universe. So
I think you're forgetting that comic that was discovered in a warehouse that was apparently from another dimension, Solid Blood 17, that an alternate reality Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley did that was sent out. Because we just found printed copies at a warehouse, so we just distributed those for free as well.
Oh,
I just wanted to make sure you didn't forget
thank you. Yeah, thank you for that
the
inclusion.
one that the alternate reality Ryan was involved in.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the Rick Grimes story? Is this the one we're talking about here?
Ryan, these guys don't even know what Solid Blood is.
I don't.
They're actually not fans. I don't know who these guys are.
Aaron, we're not real fans. Damn it.
I have an excuse.
I thought we were.
I have an excuse.
What was your excuse, Aaron?
Oh, I'm new.
He's new to the comic.
Solid Blood 17. Very, very unique and somewhat rare artifact.
Okay. Can you give us a little bit of back? Just because I want to be a real
signed copy right here.
Oh.
Watch Robert's video on YouTube talking about it.
Okay.
How Diamond has the palette, came out of nowhere.
I'm being coy, but the printer, it was during the pandemic in 2021. The printer called Eric Stevenson and was like, we've got some Image Comics here. We don't have a distribution order. I don't know what is going on here. And they did some digging, and it was, a shipment ready to go of a fully printed comic that was credited to myself and Ryan Ottley, and they, sent samples to us and showed it to us. And it was characters that Ryan and I had vaguely talked about doing things with, like years ago, but we had never really gotten around to doing it. And so it's super weird. It looks like I wrote it. It looks like Ryan drew it, but it's a comic that kind of came out of nowhere. And if you read the comic, there's like all kinds of like weird, like things that don't quite make sense. The letters column talks about how I did a comic called Walking Dead, but it got canceled, but that didn't actually happen. So I don't really understand. But I think it's some kind of prank that somebody that's able to ape our work, had done. I decided to just distribute it because I was like, if you're going to play a prank on me like that, I'm going to call your bluff. So we just sent it out to retailers for free. And people seem to enjoy it, but now no one remembers it.
I'm looking at the cover right now, and it absolutely does look like your artwork, Ryan.
I know, yeah.
That's wild. Like, we got some Skynet, like back in time, like stuff, changing the timeline. We're in the darkest timeline right now anyway, so this totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't buy into all that stuff, but it's definitely somewhat bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what you guys are doing here with Battle Beast. And Ryan, again, this probably has a lot to do with what you're going to provide for this whole.
I don't feel like we should spend the rest of this podcast talking about Solid Blood. That's
Solid Blood. All right, Aaron, scrap the transcript.
Going. I feel like
delete it all.
Delete the transcript. Talk about Solid Blood the rest of the time. No. The blind bag program. Tell us a little bit about this. I'm very curious because you guys, again, are just like with, all of this, seem very coy about it.
The blind bag program. I mean, blind bag is not a new concept. There's blind box figurines and things like that. It's kind of a fun thing. And like I say, we're always trying to, make the experience of going into the comic book store as special and unique and memorable as possible. And so we thought it'd be neat. You do all these variant covers for these comics now, and some of them are very rare. And so without messing up the rarity, we're able to put all of these comics in the blind bag. So, again, it's very rare, but you could get a 1 in 1,000 Battle Beast cover in this blind bag. You could get the 1 in 500. You could get the 1 in 50. You could get the 1 in 10. I think those are all covers that we did. I don't know the exact ratios of everything, but you get what I'm saying. So anyway, but there's also, so every variant cover of Battle Beast you could possibly get at random in this blind bag. But there are 3 very special, very unique, very exciting comics that are also available in these blind bags that I don't think I can talk about because I don't know exactly when this podcast is going to go up. But let me just say they are all very special and very unexpected. And one of them is absolutely insane to the point where if I told you what it was right now, you possibly wouldn't even believe me.
Okay. I mean, I don't think you can hype that up anymore. I guess let me kick it over to Ryan here. What has been your sort of preparation for this blind bag program? Because, if I know anything about Ryan Ottley is that you come with the goods when it comes to Invincible covers, original art, all the things, trading cards even. Yeah.
I mean, again, we can't say exactly what's going in there, but you shall see. I mean, I did the 1 in 1,000 cover. And so, that's the one that, that's going to be the rare one to get in there.
Is it going to be like a Battle Beast drape, like what Thrag wears? It's just like the entire head and cape looking thing. Can you get one of those in this blind bag? Like,
that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
I don't think it'll fit in there, man. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just a coupon. You have to go to Robert Kirkman's house and get it.
Ooh, there's a good idea. We'll have to do that.
There's this one blind bag that's like super soft and squishy. I don't know what's in that one. I'm sure it's a comic. I will say one of the cool things is that if you, I don't remember exactly what the quantity was, but if a retailer ordered a certain high number of books, they actually got an original sketch cover drawn by Ryan Ottley. So, we expected that to be very few stores. And it ended up being quite a few stores. So there's a lot of stores out there that have like an original Battle Beast sketch cover drawn by Ryan Ottley. So, definitely, inquire at your store if that's available, if you're listening to this.
And that's not going to be part of the blind bag, but that is the 1 in 2,000 variant. So,
right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about, again, Ryan, we've worked together at some of these cons before. And one of my favorite things is when something sells for a lot of money that deals with Ryan's art Invincible. His response is almost always the same. And you guys listening to this can't see my face, so I'm just going to try to describe it. It's like eyes open, eyebrows up, and like surprised, like it hasn't happened 100 times before today.
Like it's my yeah. Drunk Conquest, ripping apart. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, let's do it right now. I'll do it. It's the funniest thing ever.
I love the fact that Ryan is genuinely surprised when people come up and like every single time so appreciative of people like appreciating your art and what you've done for Invincible for these other runs. And same with you, Robert. Like this is the first time I'm actually getting to see you like what you look like in person because honestly, like I've seen your pictures, but every time I try and see you at a convention, like you're busy or like swamped. It's never the opportunity. So I'm awesome
a ghost.
It's so awesome. But like Ryan makes himself available to table and like people come up and show him their cosplays, their art, their pops. And you're just like sitting there, bells on, smiling, just happy as hell because you just genuinely love that people appreciate it. And it's so like awesome to see as a fan. So I just want to say before I get to the final question, thank you for being just like that genuine. And I'm not saying that you're not like that, Robert. I just haven't interacted with you. I'm not saying that at all. I would never offend Mr. Kirkman in such a manner. I have a lot of his stuff and I will one day get it signed because I will meet you in person and say, hello, sir. Great job. But I've seen Ryan plenty of times and I'm like, I tell his wife, great job for supporting this amazing guy in his art. And Ryan's just a genuine sweet dude. He's a sweet man.
Well, you don't know the things Ryan says to me behind the scenes. If you only knew the sour, hateful, spite-filled rants he goes on about the fans and about you guys in particular every night at conventions. Oh my gosh, just the bile that comes out of this guy. It's
cue Chris Evans from the deleted scene in Deadpool and Wolverine right now.
Very much so.
But Robert, and then we'll get with Ryan for the follow up on this. But Robert, you've mentioned an early goal for you in your career was to be like Eric Larson, and writing and drawing one long running comic forever. Again, this question's for both of you, but is it safe to say that the Invincible universe might be that series that you just write about until you can't anymore?
Possibly. We're certainly having a lot of fun. And I think, creator owned is to have the freedom to decide that, we get to come back to this whenever we want to, we get to put it on a shelf and have it available to us whenever we want to. And so, I think that's a very like Eric Larson-esque tradition, like, him being part of the founding of Image Comics, puts us in the position to be able to do that. So, tremendous amount of gratitude to him and the rest of the Image founders for that opportunity that they've given us and many other creators. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Invincible is unique in that I wrote it for 16 some odd years and then immediately started writing the pilot for the show. And I've been working on the show constantly, nonstop since then. And so I really haven't, there's been a gap between Invincible and Battle Beast, but for me, it's all Invincible all the time for going on 20. I will soon be dust, going on 20 some odd years now. So yeah, I could see writing this stuff for the rest of my life. It's definitely a universe that I love telling stories in. And I think that there's room within the universe to do absolutely anything, which could not be on more display than it is in Battle Beast. The things that we do in this series and the different directions the story goes, I think are really going to take people by surprise. And now that I've said far too many words, Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was at Marvel for 5 years doing that stint, it was like, I was very excited to get more because I kept doing covers. We kept doing covers of new editions and that kind of thing, of the library editions and all that. So always fun to jump back on that. And then of course at the conventions, I do quite a few shows a year. So the majority of commissions I do, it's mostly Invincible stuff. So it's like I've never stopped drawing these people, and to me, it's very exciting and it's always fun. So to jump back into it and have it be my full-time job again is quite exhilarating. So, and I, again, can't wait for everyone to see what we got cooking.
Speak on that again with us working together at cons. I think one of the cooler moments, throughout these experiences is watching how quickly Ryan can knock out these incredible Invincible sketches, right? It's with the blood splatter and everything. Ryan, you knock it out, it seems like in like 10 minutes, but you could put it into a comic. You could put it on a page. It's how good it is. So it's really cool to see that. And, again, as we said at the beginning, this is sort of my closeout here, is what a pleasure it was to get both you guys here on the show together to talk about not only Battle Beast, which again, that comes out on May 14th. That first issue comes out on May 14th, but to also just like talk about Invincible as a whole, because Aaron and I are both huge fans, not only again of the comic, but the show is incredible. It's there's a reason why it's also equally as big of a hit. And Robert, and actually small side question before we get out of here.
Sure.
This mega hit that Invincible has become through Prime. I never thought that I would see another mega hit like The Walking Dead, but does it kind of feel like Invincible is in that same playground as The Walking Dead in terms of just like sheer scope of people really enjoying it?
I mean, it does to me. The show is definitely doing very well. It's pretty shocking to, kind of be in that place again. I went with Gillian Jacobs and Sandra Oh to Brazil to promote Invincible at CCXP. And, it was massive panels and, thousands of people cheering and, freaking out. And, we were kind of going from interview to panel promoting the show. And it was fun because Gillian and Sandra were like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing. This is so crazy. And I had to be like, yeah, crazy. Never seen anything like this before. Crazy. And inside I was like, it's kind of neat to, be doing this again. I haven't done this since, the heyday of Walking Dead. But yeah, it's pretty cool having Invincible finally get this kind of attention. It's also especially nice because I had like 15 years of Ryan Ottley being like, oh, Walking Dead gets so much attention. And Invincible, no one wants to talk about Invincible. Walking Dead, everything's Walking Dead. Like, come on, man. What
That's just like me.
Yeah, exactly what he sounded like.
And now you got Invincible in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And Mortal Kombat, my God.
Yeah.
Right.
Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat, best thing ever.
Yes. No, and I love also the fact that what's interesting is I live in New York, so like the list last few days they've had a bunch of zombies walking around, like Walking Dead zombies in the city in Manhattan, just walking around like handing out flyers and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, because are we promoting Dead City or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that, Ryan? Walking Dead's still out there.
Still there.
Well, like I said, what a pleasure it was to get both of you on here today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
So great talking to you both. One last thing before I let you go is I'm going to hand it off to Ryan. I'm going to start with you here. Is there anything that you want to sort of plug or highlight besides Battle Beast to the listener before we let you go?
Man, I'm only working on Battle Beast right now. So yeah, I mean, just get that Battle Beast May 14th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Robert, how about you?
There's a new book called Blood and Thunder. If you're not, reading that, you need to check that out. It's by Benito Cereno, E.J. Sue, and myself. It's a great sci-fi book. It's a buddy cop adventure with a space bounty hunter and her best friend, a talking sentient gun. It's a lot of fun. And then I got Void Rivals out there, part of the larger Energon universe. So if you're not reading any of the Energon universe books, you're missing out. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. We're building a cool universe using G.I. Joe and Hasbro character, or G.I. Joe and Transformer characters, and some new characters that Lorenzo De Felici and I have created for Void Rivals that kind of round out the universe in a cool way. And it's a pretty cool book. A lot of fun. I feel like there's other stuff I'm forgetting, but that's all I got.
Awesome. I agree. Everyone should be reading the Energon universe in some capacity, whether again, it'd be G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, all of it probably should be reading. So totally agree there. Thank you both again so much. And we would love to have either both of you on together again at some point or separately. It would be our great pleasure.
I will never appear in public with Ryan Ottley ever again.
Alrighty, there's that conversation with Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. Thank you both so much for being here on the Oblivion Bar podcast. Once again, Battle Beast #1 comes out on May 14th. Make sure you guys go grab that. I'm not telling anyone something they don't already know. It's Invincible's back in comics. Of course, folks are going to be lined up around the block. Aaron, we need to get ourselves some of those blind bags.
I was just thinking the same thing. We got to reach back out to our, sponsor of the show, Endless Comics, Cards and Games, and talk to them about getting some of those blind bags. Because, oh my God, imagine pulling like a 1 in 1,000 sketch cover or whatever, like out of one of those bags. Like that is going to be insane. And I've, working with CSA at the conventions, we get to be around Ryan and we see a lot of his covers, especially his Invincible covers that have Battle Beasts on them, and they are insane. They're incredible. Some of his sketches are just incredibly well done, and he's so good at it because he's been doing it for 20 years. So this is just an exciting opportunity to get a piece of history here. So go check out those blind bags at your local comic shop. Hopefully you get some. If you get some, tag us in your social posts so that we can, check out what you got. And we'd love to follow you and see what you guys got on those, out of those blind bags. And if we can get our hands on some, we'll definitely post ours as well.
Yeah, hopefully we can. And, they purposely stay really coy about what you can get. As we talked about in this conversation, Robert Kirkman, this wouldn't be a Robert Kirkman launch if he didn't have something really cool planned for that launch. And, he talks about the covers and, the blind bag is, you can get all types of things. But like, I have a feeling they're going to offer something extremely rare. Like someone's going to pull a fucking golden ticket out of one of these blind bags. And I can't wait to see what it is because no one plans like a surprise for their comic again, like Robert Kirkman. And I have a feeling that it has something to do with Ryan Ottley. And one of my favorite moments in this conversation, and it's also maybe one of the more embarrassing moments, is when Robert Kirkman starts talking about Solid Blood number 17. I genuinely had no idea what they were talking about. Did you know, were you tracking what they were talking about?
I looked it up as they were talking about it. I've never heard of it before, but it was an incredibly cool thing to see.
Yeah. I still don't know what it is really. Like it's Solid Blood number 17.
So if you understand, like what they said was that it's literally something that somebody found in a warehouse that was printed, and it's got their names on it, and it looks like they drew it and it sounds like they wrote it, but it's not, like they didn't do it.
I think they were joshing us, Aaron. I think that they did do it and they just they're like acting like they didn't do it. Aaron's Googling away right now. I really think that like they did this as like a fun bit for themselves, like as a fun inside joke, like, haha, we're going to release a comic and not tell anyone. And it's going to be a random issue from a series that doesn't exist, because like the back is an advertisement for Cory Walker's Kick Fight, which is not a real comic. Issue 9 coming in March. Not a real comic, guys. At least I don't think so. I could be wrong there too. I genuinely think that this is Kirkman and Ottley doing a gaffe and just like joking in all of our faces. But the thing about what's really funny about when we talked about this is that Kirkman and Ottley were both playing it straight. Like I can't tell if they're joking or not. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard to tell if they're being serious. That's sort of the fun thing about what we're talking about here. I'm sure there's some story out there that debunks all of this and that like it probably really was Kirkman and Ottley playing a joke on everybody in the comic world, because he's done it multiple times. Again, as I said in the conversation, the Die number 1 coming out randomly without solicitation.
Yeah.
The last issue of The Walking Dead being randomly dropped. He does this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a reasonable explanation. It's definitely cool though to think about, because even I'm trying to think of it's a fun idea, because I've seen, you know who did it? The Umbrella Academy, their show, they did it. Like they had like a separate timeline. And so like in that, like the final season, they had this group of people that were just like gathering these objects that looked like they basically, there's no way they were from that universe. They had to somehow come over from a different universe, because they didn't, not the right actors. It's like, remember the movie Last Action Hero, when he goes to the Blockbuster, and it's Sylvester Stallone playing, the Terminator.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a cool idea though.
It is fun. And again, it's a nice bit, because I'm sure Kirkman and Ottley, they're playing into the bit still in 2025, and that's fun. You know what I mean? And actually this conversation with Kirkman and Ottley really inspired me to go back and not only rewatch season 1 of Invincible over on Prime, but also I haven't seen anything past season 1. And the first episode of season 2 is like pretty excellent, everybody. If for some reason you're not caught up with Invincible, and I heard some people complaining about it was taking too long to come out. If you've watched Invincible, the quality is insanely good. So like, let them do their thing. Let's not demand content, because there's a ton of it out there. We're giving you some of it to you right now. Like, I'm not saying we're on the same level as Invincible, but like, this is content. There's no shortage for content anywhere. So just excited for more of all this. And again, I cannot talk enough about how much of an honor it was to get Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley here on the show today. It is truly like a landmark here on the Oblivion Bar. And, I think we played it pretty cool, Aaron. I think it's one of those things where like, we often get in our own heads about like these guests because we revere them, and there's no one bigger in the industry than Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. But like, I think we almost immediately were like just broing it up with them.
Yeah. And I think that that's the problem sometimes is this was a new set of parameters that we weren't used to. This was like a very much time limited, here are your bookends, be done. And then we were also running late. So we didn't know how their temperament would be.
We weren't, everybody.
Well, we weren't. They were running late. So like we didn't know if their temperament, how that would be. And again, yeah, I would just say like for what we had, what we could do and what we did, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, agreed. You'd be surprised how many of these publishers just give us an email and say, hey, go talk to, Joe Schmo. And then they let us do whatever we want. We ask them whatever questions we want. Not necessarily the case here, but that's okay. So that'll do it for episode 193. Once again, thank you, Robert and Ryan, for coming on the show. Battle Beast #1, again, comes out the week this episode comes out. Make sure you guys go check it out. Aaron and I have already read it, and it was awesome. So that'll do it for episode 183. Episode 194, Aaron, speaking of battles, Battle Royale number 6.
No.
We've been teasing it. It's been in the works. It seems like for little bare naked ladies. We need to remember this. Put one of the people from Bare Naked Ladies into this Battle Royale.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
A bare naked lady versus
a naked bear lady.
A naked bear lady. Battle Beast. Yeah. So Battle Royale number 6. Everybody, if you're not familiar with Battle Royale, it is one of Aaron and I's favorite segments here on the Oblivion Bar, where basically we take 5 random fighters against, in all of fiction, comics, movies, television, video games, novels. I've even thrown Aaron into one of these fights before.
Fucking asshole.
It could even be nonfiction. You put Abraham Lincoln, whoever, it doesn't matter, into these fights. And then Aaron and I have to debate on who we think would win these fights.
Yes. Random arenas with different rules, different like changes in them, different environments. And then also once the actual show is released, we then give the option to the listeners to go and vote on that's going to be interesting. Are we gonna be able to do that? Because we're not on Twitter anymore. So we'll have to figure out another way for people to vote, which will be fun on some of these other platforms. You can do polls on Instagram, I think. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
That's honestly what's most important. Like Aaron and I can sit. The debate on the show is just for a fun giggle. Like we will determine a winner between he and I, and we try to be completely unbiased. I think we do actually a pretty good job of being unbiased and just sort of listen to each other and give each other grace when it comes to like, we're not going to know everything, but if we make a compelling argument of why Mandalorian would kill Darth Vader, then we'll honor that. But what really matters is
friendship.
The vote.
Oh, the vote. Yeah.
Is love.
Is good shaking hands at the end as good sportsmanship.
That's right. A nice firm grasp of a behind.
Abuela, ¿dónde está? And
I don't know what's happening here.
I don't know. The scene from Bridesmaids when she
right.
Biblioteca.
This needs to be open because of civil rights.
What was I going to say? I forgot. Bad brain strikes again.
Bad brain.
Oh, I was going to say something about the voting and the voting and the.
Is it that I've won 3?
Well, that
you've won 2.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it was?
Winning?
It was a stupid. It was a dick joke.
Yeah.
I was going to say we've gotten really good at debating. Some would call us masters. Yeah.
Golf clap.
Thank you, master debaters.
Yep.
Thank you.
Never heard that one before, Aaron. Way to go.
Anyways, subscribe to our podcast.
That's next week on the show, everybody. It's a hoot and a holler, as we like to say here on the Oblivion Bar. It's a hoot and a half.
A real hoot nanny.
All right, that'll do it for episode 193. Hopefully Robert and Ryan aren't listening to this episode. Aaron, take us out of here.
All right, subscribe to our podcast. Apple Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, that's where we are.
Don't you know?
Don't you know? Thank you to our patrons, Alex, Aaron, Botter, Chris S., Chris Y., Christy, David, Elliot, Erica, George, Gianni, Greg, Haley, Ham6, Jake, Jeremy, Kyle, Losi, Mac, Miles, Mike, Olivia, Ryan, I, Robert, Saunter, Sean, Trevor, Travis, Zach, and Brad and Lisa. If you want to support the show without spending any money, follow on your preferred podcasting platform and a 5-star rating and or review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify helps the show a poop ton. Follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch at Oblivion Bar Pod. Again, at Twitch, at Oblivion Bar Pod. Official merch of the show can be found on our website, oblivionbarpodcast.com. Big thank you to Oni Press and Endless Comics, Games, and Cardsier for sponsoring the show. Thank you, KXD Studios, for all of our Oblivion Bar art. He's at KXD Graphics on Instagram. Thank you, Dream Kid, for all of our musical themes. Thank you, DJ Skyvac, for our grid theme. And last but not least, do not forget to tip your bartenders 20% or more. And then, you know what, to even add to that, round up to the next dollar.
That's right. Yeah. Tip 20% and then add $1 on top of that. It would mean a metric poop ton to that server and or bartender or Uber driver. Don't tip your Qdoba guy. Okay, let's chill out. The tipping's got out of control. I get it, but like, let's tip the people that need to be tipped.
There literally is a little tipping button on everything. Everything.
It's really annoying.
So
I get it.
Bartenders and servers. Okay.
Yeah.
People in the service industry.
Valets. Yeah. Taxi drivers.
Valets.
Your lady of the night, right? Like she did a lot of things for you.
Your tattoo artist.
I went to like a prostitute and you're like, tattoo artist, right?
Who hasn't been to a prostitute?
What about a tattoo artist that's a prostitute?
You're getting stuck many ways.
You got to tip 30% for that because they double the work.
You got to give all. No, there's too many ways goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Oblivion Bar podcast. We'll see you next week for episode 194.